Shakedown Hawaii, the upcoming game from the developers behind Retro City Rampage, will be making its debut first on Epic Games Stor. Vblank Entertainment and Epic announced earlier today that the game is slated to be released sometime this spring. This belongs to the growing trend of developers exclusively publishing their games to the storefront, or skipping other marketplaces altogether. Although terms of the exclusivity deal were not revealed publicly, Shakedown Hawaii will be published on other platforms including Nintendo 3DS, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, and PlayStation Vita at a later date. This week, United Kingdom developer White Paper Games is releasing The Occupation, an investigative thriller that plays like Deus Ex, but tests players with a fixed clock as they solve their investigation. It's a really unique game that got featured in Epic's DD booth last year, and today on the DD Twitch channel, the developers will be swinging by far chat during a live stream of their game. If you are a fan of immersive sim-style games, think Deus Ex Dishonored, and games built on investigation mechanics, you should definitely swing by and ask questions for the developers. If you are not, swing by and ask questions anyway. And for more developer interviews and curated DD talks, be sure to follow the DD Twitch channel. Razer and Microsoft are collaborating to release a wireless keyboard and mouse combo designed specifically for the X1. This news comes after Microsoft finally brought mouse and keyboard support to the console last month. Although the new feature seems to only be available to Epic insiders, it will eventually be opened up to all players. But at an unspecified date, dubbed the Razer Turret, it features a full-size mechanical keyboard with a dedicated desk key that pulls up the X1 dashboard. The mouse is modeled after the Razer Mamba wireless mouse, and can sit on a retractable base that slides out from the keyboard. Predictably, the turret is also compatible with PC, so players can switch back and forth between platforms as they wish. The Razer Turret costs $250 United States and is currently available for pre-order on the Microsoft Store. South Korean publisher Deus has acquired a majority stake in the mobile studio Day7, which is known for developing romantic visual novel games. The deal was supplyXECUTDBECAUSC Toys believes this investment will help the company continue its growth into markets overseas, as reported by PocketGamer. The publisher confirmed ownership, along with management rights for Day7, earlier this week. Financial details of the deal were not publicly disclosed. Seoul-based studio Day7 has released around 30 visual novels for both iOS and Android devices with Wannabe, a role-playing game targeting women for its core audience, as its latest game development. Nexon founder Jung-ju is reportedly looking to sell a 65% controlling stake in the company's holding firm NXC Corp for around $8.9 billion, as reported by Reuters, via the Korean Economic Daily. Shares in the Tokyo-based video game company, which operates various popular mobile and PC titles, like MapleStory and Dungeon Theater Online, jumped by around 30% following the news. The company has also helped bring a number of popular franchises, like Need for Speed, Final Fantasy FIFA, and Counter-Strike, to the South Korean market. Morgan Stanley and Deutsche Bank have seemingly been brought in to manage the sale, and there's reported interest from potential buyers, including Kakao Corp Netmarble EA, and Tencent. Violence is at the center of most video games, and it is quite understandable as to why. Violence is ingrained into the DNA of some of the most popular genres, from first-person shooters to action-adventures. In many ways, this is what makes Eastshade, a new open-world adventure game about a traveling painter, feel like somewhat of an oddity. Eastshade takes the open-world structure of a game like The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, or be it on a small scale, and argues that the paintbrush is mightier than the sword, letting players solve problems not with their fists, but with their art. For the project's founder Danny Weinbaum, and the rest of Eastshade Studios, creating a game that eschewed violence in this way for painting proved incredibly challenging. How much freedom do you give players to create their own paintings? And in lieu of action, how do you create a satisfying gameplay loop that is both fun and reinforces the game's central themes through a mixture of trial and error and some clever technical tricks, such as using shader effects to slowly reveal the painting? They arrived at some satisfying solutions to the problems they were having. When it came to making Eastshade, the world came first. Weinbaum had worked as an environment artist on AAA games, like Sucker Punch Productions, Infamous, Second Son, prior to striking out on his own. So he wanted to make a game that had a sense of place first and foremost. Initially, we just wanted to make a world, he says. That was the main goal. But then we also wanted to, we did not want it to be a straight walking simulator. We really wanted it to have some sort of game loop in there. The team's first attempt at this involved introducing survival mechanics early on in the development. Weinbaum added different status bars for hunger, thirst, and malady. It was hoped that this would provide another layer to the game for players to engage with. But things did not quite go so according to plan. Those were like a train wreck, he explains, because they were totally opposite to what we wanted the player to be doing in the game. It was like we want players to enjoy the world, and take it slow and look at the sights on top to people. But then we were just like making their borders slide down. On account of this, the team started stripping back the survival mechanics to guarantee that players could actually explore at their own pace and smell the flowers. The game does still borrow some elements from survival games here and there. You must collect materials and recipes to craft, and at night staying outdoors too long in the cold without wearing a coat can result in you respawning back at the last bed you slept in. The difference now is that they no longer pose a significant obstruction to the players while out exploring, with individuals able to gather materials fairly easily and sleep in beds or tents to skip till the morning. Around this time, Jaclyn Ciezadlo, the co-designer on the project, suggested painting as the central premise of the game. This proved to be a popular idea, and soon the team started to prototype a version of the game. The first time Jaclyn proposed the painting thing, it sounded really hard to me, so I basically took what she said and took all the good stuff out. Laughs Weinbaum. I initially put the paintings in pickups, so we would have these paintings in the world, and they were like little pickups. This is so embarrassing to even say, and even she at the time was like, that's not painting, that's totally dumb. Do not do that under any circumstances. Having to rethink how painting was incorporated, the team settled upon a screenshot mechanic instead, though this would mean players would have less control over how they could interpret their surroundings. This mechanic would ensure the game was still accessible for even the least talented of painters, allowing individuals to simply stretch the parameters of the canvas on the screen and capture the image held within. Whenever a player paints in the game, the image is serialized into the game's data and appears on screen on a canvas. So, In a basic quest, you'd be given a commission to paint an object out in the world, and would then be required to find that item based on noted and visual cues. Kind of like a simple game of I Spy. How it actually works is when you paint it records the time of day and special objects within view, says Weinbaum,